Hey everybody, I'm Jack Rita. Welcome to The Warp. And in this video, I wanted to talk about what 50 aliens should be in a second edition of Cosmic Encounter. Now, to be clear, there's no plans for there to be a second edition. And by second edition, I mean if Fantasy Flight were to say, hey, we're going to do a refresh on Cosmic Encounter and do a new edition of it here with us as the publisher. Certainly if somebody else came along, then it would be like a 5th edition or God knows what. So a second edition of the Fantasy Flight version of the game, 50 aliens. What should be in there and what should be pulled out to be replaced by something else. And I'm not going to speculate too much about what I would replace with, but I do want to get your comments to see what suggestions you might have and whether they should be brand new aliens or a shuffle around of stuff from expansions brought forward into the base game. So let's start with the stuff that I would consider essential to keep in the game. So I'm going to start with the green alert aliens. They're not going to be in alphabetical order. I'm gonna say Parasite is a really great concept. I don't know that it's a green alert alien. It might be something that could get bumped to yellow just because I think people are like, well, wait a minute, how do we deal with this? This is a problem. It's not a hard problem to figure out what you should do, but again, I think it's a very accessible concept, and I think that's why it is a green alert alien. But I think it's a great alien, and we definitely would keep that one in there. I love Sorcerer. I think it is fundamental alien power with a game like Cosmic Encounter, and it is an obvious choice to keep in the base game. I think Warrior's pretty good. This is one that we might look at to see if it does need to be boosted, because in all the years I've been playing Warrior, I've never been impressed with how strong it is. It starts off very weak and it very slowly gets up. It may be the sort of thing where we look at the super flare effect, very much like we did with Void in the Odyssey expansion, where we provided an alternate timeline version of Void that was a little bit more powerful. Warrior might need a similar approach, and maybe it's not the super flare, maybe it's something else. Maybe it starts with a couple of tokens. There's I think a lot of ways that we could play around with this, but I like Warrior and I would keep it in there. I think Oracle has to be. Oracle is kind of the face of Cosmic Encounter for longtime players anyway. And I would put Oracle back on the cover of the box for sure. I think it is, it's the heart of Cosmic Encounter. This is another one where, I don't know, if you're talking about the alert level, is it an easy one to figure out? Because this was very easy to play. It's the counterplay that sometimes, like Virus, is very easy to figure out. It's not, multiplication isn't that hard. Trader, again, a very fundamental an alien that breaks the rules in some way. Very straightforward. That's a keeper for sure. I love Mutant. I think Mutant should be in there. I don't know if some people have said like Mutant also not that strong. I think it's strong enough. I think Clone is a great choice. That's definitely going to be in the base game for sure. Pacifist is one where there's been discussion, like if Pacifists were being added to the 5th, 6th, or 7th expansion, it might have some way of helping to generate negotiate cards. This is one where maybe, it starts with a negotiate card, so it definitely has one, but that might be too much. I mean, it's the sort of thing, again, when this was first introduced, it seemed very straightforward, it was fine. But again, as other aliens come in, especially playing around in a similar design space, you realize it's only fun if you can actually use your alien powers. And there have been games where you didn't get any negotiates, so what are you going to do? That might include setup, so maybe we don't want to do that. I think Volch is an obvious choice for that. We might revisit what this looks like. I don't know about that. Art. With Clone, of course, we want to have Filch, so that's a pretty obvious choice. This is the one who takes the opponent's card. You just got to figure out that Clone Filch timing. Is it the timing roll? Do you write something into it? That's something that I think we would look at. Vacuum is another good one, I think, for the base game, especially when you're looking holistically at all of the different aliens and effects or whatever, and this was a nice one. Loser is one. Now, this is an alien that, again, it's green alert because it's really easy to figure out, but it's also one of the most powerful aliens in the game. It is consistently rated as the #1 alien by a lot of different people. Now, with well over 200, there's definitely going to be some more heated debate about that, but this is definitely in the top 5 for sure. So should it be yellow just because it is so strong? I don't know if that necessarily plays into it. And maybe it is a candidate for moving into an expansion. So that's, I would probably keep it in there, but it would be worth the debate. Reserve is a great alien. I love it. I think it's nice to have an alien that's playing around with the reinforcements, because those would be in there. Now, I have Micron here. We would probably go back to calling it Macron, but this is the effect that I would advocate for having, because I think it just helps to keep it consistent. You're not like, I can use this number here and that number there, and how I like it because it's more consistent. I know that like Rob Burns would debate me on that one, because he is debating me on that one, but this would get my vote. I think Will, again, fundamental concept. You're defying destiny. You're going where you want. Plus, you can take out people's foreign colonies. Keep that one in there. Keep Miser in there, too. Miser in a 6-player game, when you're not using the extra cards, you're going through that deck a lot faster, but that's fine. And then, of course, Zombie, and we would go with the alternate timeline version of Zombie from the get-go. So it wouldn't have the alternate look. It would just be a regular look because it's a new addition. Then we go into the yellow alert aliens. So we're still in all of the keepers. I'd keep Amoeba in there. I think Amoeba works fine. I know that some people are like, Amoeba is kind of weak. It's not my favorite alien. But I think it's pretty straightforward. No reason to muck around with it. I want to have at least one meta alien in there, and Reincarnator, I think, a good choice. I think this is a fun alien to play. This would be one of the new aliens that was introduced in this first edition base game, Kevin Wilson one. I would keep her more in there. We might revisit some of the wording here, because we would probably have the reward deck right there in the base game instead of the technology deck. That would get bumped to probably the first expansion. But there's some confusion. There was always FAQ, like, does Remora get to take rewards? I think we would look at that again to decide whether or not it needed to happen. But I think that's an interesting one. I think we definitely would keep Shadow in there. And I know there's some debate about whether Shadow should go back to its original name of Terrorist. I'm fine with Shadow. I think it's all right. I know there's some people get really hung up on Shadow. It's not doing anything shadowy. Subjective. So, Healer is a great choice for the base game. Definitely have Healer in there. I liked the choice that Kevin made of putting Mirror into the base game. This was a Mayfair alien. I think it is a fun alien. I think it's very underrated. And I would definitely want to keep that one in there. Definitely would have Peter Alaka's favorite alien, a philanthropist. That's a no-brainer. Put that one in the base game for sure. And I think you got to have antimatter in there. The idea that the lower total wins is a nice base game alien to have in there. Finally, Mind. I think Mind is great. One of the things I think we would look at with Mind is this whole clause here with, like, you may not tell any other players what cards you see in a player's hand using this power. That I don't know about, and I can understand why that's in there. But, this is a game where you can say whatever you want. You can even lie. You can bluff. And I don't know. I think I probably would keep that in there. I know it's kind of mean that Mind can blab to everybody else, but that's information, and maybe you don't want everyone else to know that. At least not everything that you're finding out. So you can leverage that for deals. That information is important. And maybe you mentioned that. Maybe that's something in the rule book that you talk about. All right, into the red alerts for sure. We're going to keep Grudge in there. And I like this system. I like this effect on Grudge. I think the Grudge tokens, while not needed. It is good to have those reminders in there. I like that philosophy that Fantasy Flight has, is if there's an effect, have some way of designating that effect. We would keep that for sure. We'd keep Dictator. And again, this is this version of Dictator was, I think it was Patrick Riley suggested that. This is definitely the version that we would keep. I think it's a superior version, and that's what we like. We would keep Virus in there, probably do a little switcheroo on the art, Virus and Zombie. That would be my preference. Even if they did a new edition, I would like to keep some of the art on there if possible. And I like Zombie and Virus's art, but I would swap them around. I think this is fine. I think Red Alert does make sense, although it could be yellow. Because again, you're talking about what do the alert levels really mean? It's familiarity of the game. It's understanding intuitively what the play is and the counterplay. This is not a particularly advanced concept. The counterplay definitely is, which would certainly boost it from green to yellow. But, you want to have a nice mix of alert levels, and sometimes you're just like, well, why don't we make this one red so that we have a good number of red and not so many yellow. So many of the aliens could definitely be yellow. And let's see, Warpish for sure. Keep that one in there. This is a red, not because it's hard to figure out, but it's counterplay. That's the deal there. We would have Void for sure, and we would use this alternate timeline version of Void, but it would be a regular one. And I would definitely have Masochist. This might be the only alternate win alien that would be in this base game. Maybe not. And as you know, since I've reached the end here, you know that some of these other ones are big maybes. If we do go with Masochist, we're definitely going with the alternate timeline one. And again, we might revisit that just to validate what's going on here. Now, this next batch, these are all aliens that were designed by fans of Cosmic Encounter. And by and large, I would keep those in there. I'd keep my own alien. Fodder was one that I designed, and Kevin made a minor adjustment, which I think is mostly a semantic one, which I thought was definitely an improvement. I'd like to keep it, and this is one where I would want to keep the original art if we were doing a new edition at Fantasy Flight. So that's one. This was the Dukesters Alien, a Human, that he collaborated with Kevin on. This is the one that is the barometer by which all other aliens are compared when they're adding something to be like, it's got to be at least as good as Human. And I think Human is also woefully underestimated, but I would keep that one in there. That's fun. Brandon Friel's Fido for sure is keeping it in there. This has been a favorite homebrew long before it was ever published. It is another one that, again, seems underwhelming when you first look at it, but gameplay really validates that one. Now, this one's a little bit controversial. It's Hate, which is Eric Lang's, if I remember correctly. And for that reason alone, I would keep it in there. I really like this alien, and I would keep it for that reason alone, that I like it. But, maybe I'm not the only one making the decision here, and almost certainly wouldn't be. But I would advocate for, let's keep Hate in there. It's just wildly different gameplay that's why I really like it so much. So I'd keep that one in there for sure. I keep Ken's Cudgel. This one, is it the most powerful alien? Well, it just depends. When it gets rolling, it's very impactful. And then especially when you start like, all right, we're going to be using things like evolutions, which might not have to wait until the 7th expansion to be added to the game. Evolutions might even be a base game thing because there's not that many cards. So it's worth looking at. But Cudgel, I think, is a straightforward alien. Observer is going to be a controversial one because it gets a mixed review from a lot of people. It's Cedric Chin's alien. I love it. I like playing it quite a bit. So I'd advocate to keep it in here. And then we have Hacker. Hacker is not one that I've always ever been particularly impressed with, so this would be a maybe. This one might get bumped to an expansion. We'd have to wait and see what our options are. And then finally, we get down to the list of aliens that I probably would say, why don't we think about pushing this to the 1st or 2nd expansion, and we'll get it into the game. I'm not looking to not add any of these aliens. I like all the aliens. I know Rob does a series on Board Game Geek where he looks at every alien and he asks, is it essential? And I always vote yes. They're all essential to Cosmic Encounter. They don't necessarily need to be in the base game. They might get moved. So Spiff, this is another Mayfair alien. This one might stay in there. It just depends. There's so many really good aliens, and you want to have a, really impactful 50 in there. So Spiff is a maybe. It's really an offense only, and that's the reason why I think it might get moved. It might also look at, all right, maybe there's some other application. I mean, maybe this works on defense as well. So that might be something to look at. Chosen, this was another Mayfair alien. This is an improvement upon the original Chosen, which was very shot in the dark. Would it ever be useful? This is much more useful. Might be too useful. So this is one that when we did decide to publish it, we might look at tweaking it a little bit. Just depends. This is one where we want to play test it. We want to go to the Cosmic community, find out just how many people like it as is, how many people like the original one. I don't know. I can't imagine anybody prefers the original one, but whatever. And then Barbarian. This is another one of Kevin's. It is offense only, which is why I might consider booting it out. The other thing that we would want to look at with the base game is pushing to have 6-player in the base game box. Now, the Fantasy Flight base game is 3 to 5 players. Barbarian in a 5-player count and definitely a 6-player count, offense only. I mean, it has a very nice, powerful effect. But again, in Cosmic Encounter, the aliens are the stars, and you really want to use your alien power as much as possible. So this is one where I might say, let's move it out there. We might reinvent it a little bit to give it more to do. Maybe it works as an offensive ally as well. Is that too much like Brute? So lots of things to look at and consider. Into the alien. So Calculator is, I think Calculator is a very interesting alien. I like this take on Calculator. We'd keep this, but it's really hit and miss. And it's a yellow alert. This is one that you could even move to red alert because it's really, when's the best time to do this and how can I employ it and how well do I know all of the spread of all of the attack cards to really make use of this. So this is one I'm definitely going to bump. I would probably bump Might. Now this was a Cosmic Encounter Online alien, and might consider keeping it for that reason. A lot of what Kevin did with that base game was to really reach out and leverage the full history of Cosmic Encounter. So he had Mayfair aliens, and he had fan aliens, and he had Cosmic Encounter Online aliens. This one, it's a maybe. I think I'm definitely going to have it in there. Maybe expansion 1 now. Kamikaze was an original alien. This one, on the fence. It's a very strong alien, very useful. So probably could go either way. Could go either way on whether or not to keep it in the base game. I like the idea. It was an original alien that was part of that base game, so I loved that for the first edition. For the second one, might put it in the first expansion. But this is one where it would be a question mark, and we would look at it. And then we have TikTok. I think TikTok needs to be revisited. It's so passive. It's not really, it doesn't have as much to do as an alien. It feels more like a hazard effect or something like that. Maybe TikTok turns into a hazard. I've got an alternate version of TikTok that I have in TTS. Has a little bit more that it can do. So I would start with that as a consideration. I know some people are like, make it a hazard or whatever. We'll see. I like that it's an alternate win alien. And so I might have another alternate win alien in the base game. I don't know if it'll be TikTok, but probably not. Probably push TikTok into an expansion in some form or another. Then we get down to our last couple. These are all red alerts. Gambler is one that was a very last-minute addition to the base game. I think it does make more sense. Put it into an expansion. And this is This is, I think, a perfect Alien to be in a first or even a second expansion because it is a lot of fun. It is interesting, but I don't know that it makes the most sense to be a base game Alien. So I would go with Kevin's instinct on that one. Move it out. One, know that it's coming. Tripler is another Cosmic Encounter Online alien. These were aliens that were easy to code, and that's how they found their way into Cosmic Encounter Online. And this one is fine. It's one, you know, people think, they see the red alert and they think this must be a really powerful alien, and it's okay. It's, you know, it's completely dependent on hand draw, and you want to get low cards so that they're much better. Maybe the cutoff needs to be adjusted. So here we're talking about cards valued more than 10 are divided by 3. And then maybe you move that to 12. And so that more like a 10 now is a 30. And so I think a 10 still, yeah. If the card's value is 10 or less, yeah. So you were getting that 30. So maybe you can get a 33 with an 11. So yeah, this is one we would look at, but we would probably push it into the expansions. Citadel is another one that it was an original one by Kevin. I do like it. It's one that I might think about moving in, especially if we're like, all right, what aliens are we considering to put into it? I like the idea of some brand new aliens, and so I want to be able to say, yeah, we'll bring a couple. I'll maybe promote some from an expansion to the base game, especially some of the later ones, like maybe one of the Dominion aliens or one of the Odyssey aliens that kind of moves up. Maybe one of the aliens that was going to be in Cosmic Universe. That makes it into the base game. That's a very strong possibility of some brand new ones. And I think in order to make room for that, we would move Citadel out. And then Machine. Machine is a pretty good alien, but it's one that a lot of people hate. Tom Vasel, you know, tore his up and in an event that almost gave me hives. So I like Machine. I think it has its place. Definitely going to be here, but probably not in the base game. Just because I think we can fit in some other stuff that's really interesting. So like I said, let me know in the comments. First of all, do you agree with my assessment of the aliens that I said definitely would stay in, especially those original fan service aliens, not really fan service, but fan designed. It was a little fan service. There have been a lot of similarly designed things that have come out since the Fantasy Flight Edition was designed. So more homebrew. Should one of those be considered in there? I think that's a strong yes. They should definitely be considered. And in some cases, like we take a couple that are almost there, and maybe we work with those designers to say, yeah, let's consider this and let's play test that to get those in there. So I would want to get, again, some fresh new things. I know that the 42nd edition also has Demon, and there's 51, and that just makes my skin crawl. So either it's 50 or it's 60. So maybe we try to push for 6 players and 60. Maybe that's just cost prohibitive. Who knows? There's a lot of other ideas I would have about a second edition, but 3D Planets is not on there. I mean, I think the idea of every planet has a unique look. That's definitely something, at least on one side. You know, I like the idea of keeping those individual planets. That would be for sure in there. And there's a lot of the stuff, so I'm not gonna detour down that. I think that's another video talking about a lot of other things. And again, just to reiterate, there is no plan that I'm aware of to do a second edition, although feel free to send your letters and emails to Fantasy Flight suggesting that they do that. We certainly are attempting to make those suggestions ourselves. But I just like it because it's a fun thought experiment. And, you know, I might eventually come up with, you know, some Cosmic Encounter mods on TTS where I say, here is our second edition take on it, as that might be a fun thing. In fact, that's something I definitely will do if we can actually do a true second edition. So more of a long-term project, but something that I think, in a way, I've already been working on it. But I think there's a lot of things I would go back and revisit with that project. So It's not really a true second edition. It's just a lot of alt timeline aliens and a few tweaks to the reward deck and other effects. So that's it for this one, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon.